Started about half an hour ago.
I like that.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Come on, get it great out, girl.
I just love the mariachi, so it's just like it kind of gets me into the mood. Good morning, everyone. Coffee and Pan Dulce here every Wednesday. Like today, it's Wednesday again.
Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, right?
Yeah,
Yesterday
yeah.
was election day.
Yes.
Yay! Yes, we're
So
live.
elections are on
Coffee and
Tuesday.
Pan Dulce. I thought I was dreaming. I have not slept. We are here at, like every week, at Cano's Casa
Cano.
Casa Cano, thank
Casa
you.
Cano, the house of ill dispute.
And we have some special guests that are live, so hopefully we'll turn the camera later on before we close, and we'll have a few words about that live audience. Let's welcome Cano this morning. Can you walk? Are you awake?
Yes, I am. Listen, I want us to wave a flag because yesterday was election day.
Woohoo! I'm wearing my colors.
And the world did not end.
The world did not end. I'm feeling so patriotic.
So,
I feel patriotic today.
good morning, everyone, and we also need to. We'll be doing a moment of silence because today is 9/11.
Yes.
So it is a
Definitely.
lot of things going on today. But
Yes, with
good
your
morning, everyone.
coffee.
Yes, I did have a late night, as you can tell
Yes,
from
I
my
did.
voice.
I did.
I'm Christian Cano. This is Coffee and Pan Dulce. Today is September the 11th.
September 11, 9/11.
September the 11th.
Good morning.
And I want to welcome everyone. You don't have to hold these.
Wake up! Wake up!
Happy December, Christian.
Yes, happy December. Thank you for joining us, those who are watching us on Facebook Live, but also the many who watch us on YouTube later on and later on Facebook Live as well. This is a very special edition. We're going to talk about yesterday's elections. Alexa, stop. Good, thank you very much. Technology's working today. And then we have a special guest who's going to be talking about some things that she has been working on as well. So let's go ahead and go around the table as we share, and we start from our right because you're always right.
Yes, especially this side.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jenny Gunn. I represent Charlotte Pride and the National Organization of Women Charlotte. I'm wearing my Tara Long pin, of course, and my Now pin with my name on it, so I can remember my name.
Good morning. This is Ruth Perez, Community Advocate for the City of Charlotte, and I am just a co-host here for Coffee and Pan Dulce. But today it's a bittersweet day, so let's get moving.
Yes.
I'm Jeff Scott, man about town, and former candidate in
Wow.
District 9.
It's finally
Oh.
Anyway, we'll discuss more about this.
Yep.
I'm Cristal Robinson. I am the owner of Robinson Mediation and Consulting and a Texas attorney. I have lots of buttons from ones I've got all the way back in 2004 when we were fighting like the Patriot Act and all of that to current stuff like the X right up here. No, right here.
Right there.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Barb Bacon, and I'm a healthcare advocate here in Charlotte, and I'm also the treasurer for Tara Long's campaign, and she is our live audience.
Yay, Tara, our live audience today.
Hi, everyone.
Tara's in the house.
This audience is stacked.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
That's totally unfair.
Well, listen, I'm excited to see that Cristal obviously watches our show because she actually talked about her button. And so, very briefly, 15 seconds, tell us if you didn't talk about your button.
I
you
talked
did?
about
He did.
it.
I'm talking about my button, which is
I also read your
Go ahead.
emails.
Oh,
And I also watch the
That's the kind of
show
audience
as
we
well,
need.
too.
excellent. See, that's an educated.
I got the smart button. Be smart.
Mm.
We are in a crucial time, especially after yesterday.
Yes.
So.
I've got a Be Smart button too, Moms of an Action shirt, and a Medicare for All button, and a Need to Impeach, and a Latino vote, and they all played a part in yesterday's election that we'll talk about.
I'm wearing flowers all over my shirt. These are the ones that are covering my graveyard, the graveyard of my campaign.
Oh, well.
I just wanted to bring in some dark humor to lighten the mood.
Dark humor.
But he was the victorious winner yesterday
Oh, thank you.
for Carolina's Ale
That's
House.
right.
Yeah. Okay, my button, which I'm borrowing, is vote like your rights depend on it.
Yes.
I like
That's
that one.
very, very good message. Thank you.
That reminds me to talk about something. Yes, excellent.
I am
Hey,
not wearing a
Philip!
button today.
Hi, bro.
Hey, Phil.
I'm still waiting for my mental health matters button.
We need one of those.
We need 'em.
Yes.
It's in the conversations everywhere again. So
Yes. You're right.
It always
So-
should have been.
I'll find a new vendor.
Yes, so yesterday was some very important elections here in our Charlotte region, specifically the NCO9 special election, the election that never ended, and it ended. And
For now.
we'll be interested to
I
find
have a
out.
feeling it
everyone's-
has not ended.
Well, it's still on, but before we do that, let's talk about very briefly about the municipal elections. Because that, even though it was the primaries, it was pretty much the election
That's
because of the way things work here in
Yep.
Charlotte.
because of the fact that Republicans are not putting up candidates
Yes.
in elections where they don't think they can win, where they think they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Are
So
libertarians
they are
or
libertarian.
Green Party people,
That's true. I
Constitution.
confess. I confess
So-
that's also true of libertarians
agree.
and Greens. There's a lot of opportunities out there.
switched it.
There's opportunities for candidates, but those aren't being filled. But the Republicans, as a major party,
Yeah.
I think they're being more negligent
Yeah.
than our party in this regard
Yeah.
That's true.
by not putting up competitive candidates representing their voters on the issues that are important to them.
Exactly.
Right.
And so let's talk about the results from yesterday. As far as we know, these are unofficial. They haven't been, I don't know what they call it.
Certified?
Certified, yes.
Certified.
Yes.
Thank you.
But the way it looks now, especially in the at-large races here in Charlotte, the top 4 people get in to the next round, which generally they win the next round because this is a very heavily Democratic city, unless all Republicans gang up and decided to vote for someone, which they still never do. I don't know
That's
why.
right, yeah.
But it looks like Braxton Winston, who I supported, many of us supported, came in with the top ballot getter with 19.3%, 44,000 votes. James Smuggy Mitchell came in second with 39,000, 16.99% of the vote. The third one who came in, this is a surprise for many people because she didn't get endorsed by the Observer, which I said could have been, I think the Observer endorsement is a kiss of death. Dimple Ajmer came in third. I'm so excited for her
Yes.
because she got a lot of, I think, unfair
Support.
kind of attacks by the Observer and people in general. And then Julie Eisel came in fourth, barely right underneath Dimple with 36,000 at 15.86. As of right now, it looks like the ones who did not make the top 4 are Lawana Mayfield with 14.8%. Jorge,
Yes.
we did not make history, it looks like it, but you know, I'm
But I
proud
love
that-
the numbers.
Yeah, the numbers are.
I love it.
27,000
Yeah.
came in, and Chad Stakowitz came in with about 12,000. So the top 4 as of right now, it looks like 3 of them are returning. Actually, all 4
All
of them
of
are
them are,
returning.
yeah, all
are
of them are
returning.
incumbents, yeah.
So you know, I guess that
Yeah.
goes to the point. It's kind of hard to beat an incumbent.
Which
Yeah.
I do
Yes.
agree, and I really was looking forward for that
Sure.
because we definitely, like we've been saying, we
Yeah.
definitely need extra time. It's
Mhm.
not fair for just a 2
Sure.
years term,
to deal
and
with
not
this.
and they have not accomplished much of what they started saying at the beginning. So
Sure.
hopefully we'll see a big change. I feel bad for Julie because I mean I thought she was gonna stay like the last election. This time I thought she wasn't gonna make it.
Well, I didn't think she was going to make it either, but I think this is, I think a lot of factors had to do with it. She probably, I don't know, I mean, people will answer these questions on
Yeah.
their own. She probably took a bigger hit than anyone else because she voted for the RNC.
Correct.
Because James Mitchell also voted for the RNC, but he didn't seem like he took that much of a hit.
Now,
Uh-huh.
is Brockton becoming our pro tem now?
Well, that's what conversation has to be. Traditionally, and those
The
who follow
highest.
us, usually who gets the most votes
Yeah.
becomes the pro tem,
Yeah.
which I think will completely change the dais because Julie is, in most circles, considered to be Mayor Lyle's best friend. Everything they do, it's all together. They talk about things and strategy. To have Braxton there, I think would be really good diversity because then you wouldn't. You would have kind of a balance. I don't know. What do y'all think? We'll go around the table. Start with you.
Well, I mean,
Because you're looking at me like I have something to say.
not really. I mean, I think, and I wanted to talk more about Dimple. I think it was almost like the Trump effect. I mean, when you get all that constant press, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Dimple got tons of bad publicity there at the end, But her name got mentioned.
Yes.
Her name got mentioned again and again and again, and she
Hi, Lynn.
doesn't participate as much as she should, and all this. Then people start looking up and go, "Gosh, she actually had a really good participation rate." And then we look at all the different functions she did around town for charities and nonprofits. That put her in a conversation, and I think it gave her an incredible bump.
Yes.
I think at the end, because she was lagging in the polls.
Yeah.
And she got 2 weeks of bad press. Look at the result. I don't think it was a bad thing for her.
No.
As far as Braxton, I think he's got a strong voice. I think he's got a strong opinion that won't go lock and step with Vi.
Yeah.
He's changed a lot. He's
Yeah.
changed a lot, and I believe that even though Lawana didn't make it, I think Braxton will make that balance of Lawana, because he is the type of person that will not stay quiet, and he will not sit on the sidelines.
Exactly.
If he's playing a role, especially in our city council, he's gonna make his voice sound, and that's what I really applaud that, and I hope he does become our pro Tim, if we play the game the right way.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Who decides?
Well, I don't
They
really
don't.
want to participate in too much of an intramural squabble between Democrats. And if I came out and supported somebody, it'd probably do them more harm than good. But I do like,
Well,
I do
represent the whole-
like Julie, because I think she's the grown up in the room.
Okay.
And I've seen her work on the Citizen Review Board, and I think she's smart, she's conscientious, and I like her.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's
That's
important
good.
to like her.
Yeah.
Do you have any comment to say?
Again, I hope this doesn't backfire.
Talk about the kiss of death.
Exactly.
She's the most, that looks like a Republican, is
Yeah.
what I can tell.
That's why I think she got in.
Well, no, I've watched her at work. I've seen her
Yeah.
at the Citizens Review Board, and I've spoken to her many times. And the way that she thinks, I campaigned next to her, so got to know her there. So, given the views of the other three candidates, whose views I also know, and who I campaigned side by side, I do have a good reason for liking Julie.
But see, you mentioned something right now. You said you watched her in the Citizens
Review Board, yes.
Now, voting, it's about the community, the people that sees a servant out there. And I really like Julie. She's a great friend of mine. However, it's hard for me to support her on the outside when I never seen her
She doesn't go to
involved.
events.
You know what I'm saying?
And
Back in February,
That's
the
true.
one that was in immigration court outside, walking with
Was
all
Braxton.
the immigrants, was Braxton. He's the one that questioned Mayor Lyles.
Right.
He's the one that did everything cost behind the scenes to bring that immigration task force alive. Because we have been talking.
That's fine. I'm just making an argument about being a grown-up, having a professional temperament, knowing how to deal with others. Okay.
Now you do know you're no longer a candidate, so we can go after you now.
Oh,
So,
I know that's
You can go after
Don't
him
mess
before.
with Texas!
I got to be a contrary voice.
He was
Before.
He was fair game before.
Crystal, please.
Texas.
And that's what I
in Texas
see
for a year, so.
is that Julie is what we consider, like when you're in a Republican stronghold, you have rhinos, which
Yes.
are
Yes.
Republican in
She's a
name
dino.
only. She's a dino.
And she was that way when those of us who remember when she first ran,
Mm-hmm.
our African American community did not support her because she had only supported Republicans in the past. And her explanation was, well, they were my friends. And she hasn't helped her image, and I said this to her at the Latin American Chamber of Commerce event, is that I never see her at events that are with African Americans, our black community, and our Latinx. She's always at events on this side of town. And I said she needs to change that image because she's not a district representative, she's an at-large representative.
Yeah.
And she needs to give the impression that she is able to represent everyone at large. And to me, she hasn't changed that. But in this case, I agree. I think there were people who consider her to be kind of like the safe token Republican because they can't get a Republican in there. So Julie will do. But you know that if that's what the people want, and that's how, then she sells herself that
That's the way
way.
they voted.
Because
so.
she's all about, more police, more police. Those are typical Republican talking points.
Look, is the Democratic Party a big tent party or is it not a big tent party? I mean, does she fit into the Democratic framework? I think she does.
I think she does.
Now,
Okay.
the police
I try to get her
request,
out, but
you gotta understand that she has a trauma. The
Yeah.
police request and all what she got
Yeah.
into politics was through her trauma,
That's
through
right.
what she went, her experience. So of course she's gonna want to see a change on that, so others won't become victims like she did.
yeah, but it seemed like, and we'll, you know, I mean, it just seemed like from the outside that it was, whenever we're talking about black trauma or Latinos being targeted, it was never important when we're being attacked.
But it was important for her.
What was her trauma?
She
She
got
got robbed.
mugged, I think, or robbed, or
She
something
was
outside
raped.
of a YMCA.
Wasn't she raped?
No,
No,
she
yeah,
she
she
got followed and
Robbed.
robbed and police officers didn't do much and
Yeah.
her neighborhood didn't help
Yeah.
her.
And,
She's
all
from-
that.
and that goes back to that old cliche about conservatives, some new conservatives being liberals who are mocked, right? When they come into contact with some kind of criminal activity, they become more of a law and order person and they gravitate to some form of conservatism.
And see that's when you have to keep a balance. I got jacked with a gun on my head in front of my kids, but that didn't make me come back and say, you know.
yeah, like that.
Yeah.
And I've been held up 45
Yeah.
minutes with a gun out
Mhm.
with a cop. I was
Yeah.
supposedly driving too slow around a crack house. I didn't know which home was a crack house. And I mean, I was 17 years old in a part of town where my mechanic was, and I got stopped. And I did file through this, the cops, system. And we had to go through the mayor to actually get him to have any recourse. And so if you have that, then
Yeah.
you're on the other side.
Yeah.
Where it's
Yeah.
like, we need to control.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we
if
need
there
a
is a
good
bad
balance.
one, then you need to do something about it.
And let me tell you, I'm learning a lot. I just entered the Citizens
You were there
Academy.
yesterday, yeah.
Yep, it's a 6 weeks training. I'll be graduating in November, and believe me, you learn so much from both sides.
Yes.
And sometimes we just see the picture on the outside and think, this is the way it should be. But yes, there's good cops and bad cops, and there's good guidelines that they break like everybody else. So
You wanna say
Well,
something real quickly, Jeff?
she makes it explicitly part of her campaign to
Yes.
say, I was a victim of crime, so I became active. And you can interpret that however you want, because she largely identifies with the Democrats. She largely identifies herself as a liberal. That's the way she thinks. That's the way she acts. She's very traditional in that regard. The
Sure.
Democratic Party has to have room for people like that.
correct. Before we go on,
I believe.
let me say hi, shout out to Shirley Burgos from New York. She's
Hi.
listening to us.
New York.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Shirley.
God bless you
Yes.
too. Thanks.
Crystal, you have anything else to say before we go? Do you have anything about the election? What are your thoughts?
I was polling.
Yes,
For a
yeah,
couple
you
of
were
days.
working hard.
Wow.
I got the impression that when people showed up for early voting, they had already made up their mind.
Yes.
And when they walk totally across the parking lot and don't want you to talk to them, I learned after about a half an hour that you watch people's body
Sure.
language. But it was a really good experience
Yep.
for me. My family's like, "Are you insane? You're involved in politics now." And I said, "You should live here." Because it's different here than any other place
It
that
is.
I've lived,
It
and
is different.
I'm happy that I
Yeah.
did it. And then I was at 2 different polling sites yesterday, one for Jorge and one for Ed, and people were very determined, and I don't know, but everybody was calmer yesterday. It wasn't the frenzy and it's the last early voting day and everything, but I think people were, no thank you, we didn't. I saw very few people when you handed them something, 2 younger guys who were like, oh good, like they didn't do their homework, or they weren't that involved, but.
Or they just like getting stuff.
At
They
least
just like
they were
getting free stuff.
determined. Let me tell you, I know of many of them that didn't even bother to go and vote.
We were
And it's very sad
talking
for
about
that.
that last night.
Well, and we're going to look at those numbers here in a second. Does anyone know offhand on the districts, these 7 districts that we had, who got in and won District 2, 3,
I have
4.
one question.
Did-
I
did,
didn't see District 6 there yesterday at
Victoria?
all. No, District 6 was
Who won?
There
Victoria?
Tariq
was no
Victoria
primary.
Yeah.
in
Victoria
district.
won.
between
There
Tyrek
was-
and Gina.
that's
That's why,
the
because
gen-
they're
it's a
only.
general.
That's the general.
That's right.
So
No
it looks,
wonder.
it looks like that was a big change. That
Mhm.
Victoria is
District 3.
now going to be my city council person because I'm in District 6.
No,
You're in
Not
district
Victoria.
six.
No, it's a
no,
different.
no.
You guys
Oh.
got that
Yeah,
mixed up.
District 3.
Well,
Victoria,
between Driggs and the other Victoria.
Oh.
Do you know who won that?
Driggs won.
Driggs.
Ed one,
Ed
yeah.
won, yeah,
You talking
Ed
about
won.
Waddles?
Yes,
That's
yes,
District
yes.
7.
Waddleton won.
So Victoria W
Waddleton, whatever.
won that district.
District
Yes.
3.
Do we know who won 4?
Yes, Renee Johnson.
Johnson.
Oh, okay. How about 5? Matt?
Matt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not
Six.
not Mark.
Six was no
Driggs.
primary.
No primaries.
No, Driggs is 6.
No,
No,
Driggs
Driggs
is
is
Oh,
7.
Driggs is 7. Okay.
Driggs is 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And he won.
excellent. All right.
No
so it
contest
looks
today?
like I do, but they're not that close.
District
Play.
1 was won by Larkin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey,
okay, so
Larkin!
won.
District 2, Malcolm Graham.
Yay, Malcolm
Oh,
Graham!
Malcolm won.
That's your
Yes.
district.
Wow.
It's my
District
district and my
3
friends.
was
Victoria,
was Victoria Waddington.
Renee,
Yeah.
Matt. Oh wow, we're gonna have a really good
Board.
Board.
diverse
Mhm.
board with and then now
That's
Braxton.
some
is getting-
surprise.
Yeah, that's
Some surprises
really
there.
nice. So let's switch to
The only
general
thing that I
elections-
don't like is that we continue talking about our city being inclusive,
Mhm.
talking about welcoming, and we still have not made any history on having at least one
Libertarian.
Latino.
Right.
I don't care if it's Libertarian, Republican, whatever, as long as it will be a one Latino
The
in the board.
Find me a libertarian.
That I don't agree with
Latino,
that.
and I would support him.
Well, let me.
Or her.
I might end up
Or
becoming
her.
libertarian. Maybe you
Mr.
can support
Yes.
me.
Mr.
Thanks.
Misogynist over there.
So,
We need someone in there.
So Ruth, I would suggest, or I would.
Recommend?
I would recommend that our viewers who watch this, because our target audience is
Mhm.
Latinx between 12 and 45.
Yeah.
I would suggest that we stop using the same old Latino crowd
Correct.
to determine how to run campaigns. They're losing.
Yeah.
They're trying their best. They just do not have a connection with the new Charlotte.
I agree with that.
And they continue to run things that
In their own
aren't
group.
in their own little groups and their own little committee, which as a Latino, we're kind of taught
Yeah.
culturally to kind of honor your elders, but at the same time, the elders have to be able to have enough to set back and say, we've tried.
I
try
understand
now.
you take the poll.
Exactly.
Let me just support you from the
Exactly.
outside and applaud. Yes.
And that has to do not only with Mecklenburg County, but all of North Carolina.
She was
Yes.
In Texas, because we do have a lot of
Yes.
Latinx,
Mhm.
but they also did not have a lot of rights.
Mhm.
Cristal City is a southern Texas town, and what they did was they made sure that they had someone running in every position, and they ran as a group, and they got most of them in.
Yes.
Wow.
They ran as a
Wow.
split. Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And that might be something that
Yeah.
could
Then we might
happen.
Implement here.
Yes.
'Cause
And you want to have
The
say something?
conversation last night was how many voted, and they were going to look at those numbers.
Mhm.
And my question to you is, do they feel comfortable voting yet?
Yes. And are they inspired? And
Yeah.
I think
I
Jorge
don't
was.
think
I
inspiration
have-
seemed to be a problem.
No, I don't think
They
it was
talked
either.
about fear
Yeah.
last
Yes.
night,
Yeah.
and I was kind of shocked to hear that. But I guess that's me being naive. I thought with all the new energy and
Our-
you talking
Yeah.
about things and
our
seeing the
Latino
events,
community is very, very stubborn. Let me tell
Okay.
you,
All
and
right.
they are in Spanish. They call I don't know how to translate or interpret that. Where you help the outsiders, but it's hard to help your own house.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
So, believe me, a lot of them that know that they can vote and
Yeah.
that they have power to do that, they won't support. And Jorge said it since the beginning. He knew that a lot of our Latinos will not support him.
Mhm.
why?
And that's the hard part.
Why?
that's their culture. They
It's-
think that once you become and have a position, you will lift up yourself and forget about whatever you do.
Oh.
So that's the way their
Is it-
mentality is.
Now, are many of them Republican? Because in Texas, many
No.
Latinx
Yeah,
are
the
Republican.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great thing, great
Because there's
conversation.
nobody
Yes.
here.
That's a great segue into our next conversation, NCO9. NCO9 elections, the election that never ended, finally ended last night.
Yeah.
And we looked at
It's the pause button.
We-
It starts all over again. It's
Starts
over.
over again.
Yeah, I don't think it ended either.
We got a break for
I
3
think
minutes.
they're gonna request a recount or something. You watch.
It's not within the
No.
margin,
I
but
don't
they
think that's
can.
gonna happen.
I
hope
think he's
not.
already on
Yeah.
his way to Disney World.
No,
I-
he was sleeping in.
Oh,
He
that's right.
conceded last night. I watched it.
He did.
Yeah, there are 4,000 votes difference.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Very,
Which is
very
still
big.
very close. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
I mean,
Correct.
in that hotly contested race and the amount of money
Yes.
that was spent. And I think that's why both of the third party candidates shouldn't feel bad because one, you had national organizations dumping
Millions.
buckets
Yes.
of money.
Yes.
There was no way a third party candidate was going to make a dent with that because it was like a charging rhino
Yeah.
and you were shooting a BB gun at it.
Mhm.
To be fair, because it wasn't a normal election
No.
in any way, shape,
Yeah.
or form
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
national attention, with the money.
Yeah.
I mean, they even brought Trump in and
Pence.
and
Yeah.
Pence and
Mhm.
I mean, they threw the whole kitchen sink
You know,
at
Trump
this.
called
And
right
they
when we
still-
walked out.
Was he?
And they still barely won.
Yeah.
I mean, in a seat that's been held by Republicans for 25 years.
But I think that's really misleading though, because and I was watching CNN last night, and I just realized I got a big old spider climbing up there. So
Oh,
don't
Nice.
don't
Oh,
worry about it.
sorry.
It's freaking me out. I'm like,
Another guest.
Squirrel! Squirrel! Sorry, Spider, this ship is full.
I think when I was watching CNN and they were talking about this election and they were saying, Democrat has not held this seat since
Yeah.
1950 something and
Well,
yada,
how
yada.
many years did
Well, what they are not misleading people. This is a new district.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
not the same district
That's
it
right.
was when Pittenger first won it. I went through 2 districts. I went through the old district that went to Irondale County. It was ruled unconstitutional. I was the first one to run in the new district. So Democrats, to all of our wisdom,
Well,
in
they
my
did. They
view-
did not communicate that fact that this is actually a newly
it's
drawn
a
district.
completely new district.
And
So it's not the
this
same
group of
demographic.
voters has never been together before.
Exactly. So you have
And it's gonna
the
change
union
again.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
will change again. And so, and we're looking, everyone has a copy of
Yeah.
what the numbers kind of look like.
Yeah.
But, it looks like, I thought it would be closer. I thought it would be a lot closer, and I know everyone's going to try to put a spin on it. But the amount of, Dan McCready had 100% name recognition. It is almost impossible to have 100% name recognition.
What? No, I'm not going after that. You're on the head, Mr. Homeowner.
It is.
Yeah.
It is
Liam
almost
said
impossible.
put bailiffs out, Christian.
No, but-
to get rid of the spiders in the house.
No!
Good.
No!
Okay.
Please don't. The spider's fine.
I'm gonna
Yeah, leave the
fine,
spider
don't kill it.
alone.
I'm
He
gonna.
will kill,
I'm
he
gonna.
will kill all the bad bugs.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's your
Otherwise,
friend.
I'm gonna have to.
I'm just entertained by it. Actually, it's like squirrel.
I would be reporting Christian to pets.
Yeah.
So it looks like, if you
That was
look
very
at the
liberal.
counties, if you look at the counties, everybody, I don't know if you have copies of
I
this
don't.
Yeah.
or whatever, maybe you can share the copy. Dan McCready won,
South
County.
Mecklenburg.
Yeah.
South Mecklenburg County, which is what expected, but when you look at the numbers inside that, he didn't win as much as everyone thought he did,
Right.
which completely went to our thing. Everyone got fooled by the yard
Yeah.
signs.
Keep it
Yeah.
that way.
Yes, everyone kind of got fooled by the yard signs. And there was this false kind of belief that he had support out in the rural areas because of what we saw in
That's
yard
very
signs on
interesting.
Providence Road.
So that means I can put a sign outside and I don't need to go and vote for him?
No, what I'm saying is South Charlotte is infamous with yard signs.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that person's going to win. It just means that those people who have those
Support
homes
them.
love to put yard signs out. They
Yeah.
did the same thing for Hillary.
Yeah.
They did the same thing for Kenny Smith. And yard signs don't dictate winners in South Charlotte. That's just, that's how it is.
Or elsewhere?
Or elsewhere. So there's this false belief that whatever they're doing is working. And if they had taken the time, which we'll find out if they will admit they didn't, to actually spend time in Union County, spend time in the other 7 counties instead of all of their time in just South Charlotte, then they would have realized that you can't use the same strategy in South Charlotte that you do. I'll give you an example. McCready won Mecklenburg County, Bishop won Union County as expected, Anson County McCready won, but then Bishop won Richmond County. I won Richmond County, and Hillary won Richmond County in 2016. Scotland County McCready won. I think that is Robeson County, McCready won, but not big. And that is the largest county in our district, and it's also the most Democrats. The Lumbee tribe is there. Bladen County, Bishop won, and that was where election fraud happened. So even the people who were part of the election fraud still didn't trust McCready enough to vote for him.
Right.
And I think that spoke that he didn't even go out there.
Right, but in 2018, McCready did win Robeson County, right?
Yes.
And
Big,
and we're pretty sure that because of their vote gathering and their absentee ballots in Robeson. That's my understanding of it. Now, and had that been different this time, I don't think it would have made a difference to the overall result.
You won.
And then Bishop won. I won Robeson County, and then Bishop won Cumberland County when McCready won that last time. So he actually lost Cumberland County. And then if you look at the numbers, or the next one, and it talks about, this is where I think the big difference was made. And I think most people will at least admit that's kind of how it works.
That's what I'm looking at.
Absentee balloting, the Democrats always win absentee balloting. But you had to, in this district, you have to win it by such a big enough to offset election day balloting. Because Republicans usually win election day day of, which is why Democrats fight so hard for absentee balloting, because we need more time. People work. They have to make decisions. And you know, when the numbers first came out, McCready was up, and then he started eating into the election day balloting, and then he took over. And then when we saw the numbers starting to come in, when it was really close, the 2 counties that were still outstanding was Mecklenburg County, and I think a little bit of maybe Cumberland. I can't remember Cumberland. And you would have thought, because of all the signs, oh, McCready has a chance because of the fact that we know he's going to win South Charlotte. Turned out, as those numbers started to come in, they were all going for Bishop, for Bishop. And so the strategy, in my view, to just focus on South Charlotte, which is most of what he focused on, and if it's going to go the way it is. And he didn't win anyone over. So, you know, everyone's going to talk about, especially because everyone files in 3 more months, how you run in this specific district.
We kept on talking about it. We knew this was going to happen.
So
why? Because the Republicans were stand and firm on their platform. They knew
this is
what was going on.
Afterwards, and everyone can kind of chime in on this. We've talked about since the very beginning. You and I have had very, very divisive arguments. Republicans win because vote because they're afraid. Democrats vote because they're inspired. When you run a person, and this is I don't know how many times we saw this with John Ossoff. We saw this with Hillary Clinton. We saw this with now Dan McCready, and we spent millions and millions of dollars trying to promote someone who was not proud to be a Democrat.
Correct.
So how do you expect to inspire Democrats? 50% of our vote was 6 counties that are heavily Democrat. The other 50%, Union County and South Charlotte. If you had just focused on the 6 counties that were heavily Democrat and inspired them like Obama did, you would have had a less of a need to win over a very few people in South Charlotte and Union County. But we continue to run people that South Charlotte consultants and Hillary people or whatever, they continue to run people in this district when they don't know about the district.
Correct.
If they had just, the people that were advising McCready, and I know some of those people, had they just spent time in Robeson County, in Anson County, in Cumberland County, had they just talked to the people and said, what is the issue? Healthcare is not the most important issue. Infrastructure, Gen X, wood pellets, farming, cannabis, those are important
Especially
issues.
in those counties,
In those counties. And so when he's talking about public education, that is something that a South Charlotte privileged white woman is interested in, not a Union County person who is just wants to eat
money.
and just wants. So you're talking about issues that don't connect to those rural areas. And it looks like the way the numbers are going, you just couldn't inspire the rural areas.
Yeah.
We made the same mistake, and I say this because we made that mistake.
Yeah.
We made the mistake of assuming that all of the other areas
We're the
were
same as
the
here.
same. There's 8 different counties, 8 different industries, 8 different the way people think. Anson County is very African American. The Democratic base. Richmond County is a
That's
large.
a dry county.
Yes, Richmond County is a very large African American county, and they voted against, or they voted for Bishop.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, you know what? Maybe because people is already tired of not just walking around going circles. And I heard when we went last night, I heard how Bishop mentioned that he's planning to bring work,
Yes.
and that's very
Jobs.
that's very crucial for a lot of families, especially nowadays.
And if you are a person in Richmond County, and I learned this kind of the hard way when we went out in 2016 to Cumberland County, and especially I think it was Scotland County. I learned this. We went out in Scotland County and we pulled up to an event, and I was driving, and the person, I forgot what we call him.
The body man.
The body man was in the passenger seat because I'm a control freak, so I have to drive.
Right.
And the candidates really
Yes.
the candidates really never supposed to drive. You're supposed to be doing work while everyone else
right.
drives.
He was
Yes,
my
sir.
chauffeur.
Where would you like to go, sir?
When McCready traveled, he had an entourage of like 6 people,
Yeah.
like he was the governor.
Yeah.
Okay, film crews, people taking pictures.
Yeah.
He walks out. That may work and impress a South Charlotte group, but that doesn't
Not in
impress
the
people in the
rural
rural
area.
areas. They're like, "Who's this rich kid?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
this. Then he's, "Hi, I'm Dan." Their BS meter is
Which triggered. I mean, when you talk whether it's rural Texas or rural North Carolina, they're very traditional.
yes.
And very, very just. Hey, I want my candidate to look a certain way, and I want a country boy. I want somebody that can do a little bit of a twang, do a little bit of a draw, and be common. And he could have really played up his Marine stuff a little bit more out there, but he needed to go out there. But he needed to go out there, and there's how many things. But in those areas, I went to his last thing on Friday night, and he didn't really talk about that. He talked about his business experience, which was very appropriate because we were in South Charlotte.
Right,
we were on Park Road. But out there, he needed to say he was a native and he fought for our country and God bless America and stuff
Jenny,
like that.
what do you think? I know we're all in. What do they call it? The Monday morning quarterbacks, whatever.
Yeah, 2020
What do you think would have occurred if Dan McCready had just come out and said, "I'm not perfect. I can't solve everyone's issues, but I'm going to fight as heck for you. I'm going to fight against Trump when I need to.
Instead of government
instead of I know all the answers, I'm going to cure public education. I'm going to cure this.
Look,
we know he's not the president.
I don't think he was being that arrogant. I think he was conveying a certain sense of modesty to his credit. I don't think he was making exaggerated claims about what he could do.
But when we look at candidates around the country, Stacey Abrams, the gentleman who ran for governor, even Beto for many ways, they admitted they were not perfect. Correct. And there's nothing wrong with saying, and I said this before, how you would have won.
I think you're
Blaine
saying
County.
it wrong.
Okay,
I think you're
good.
saying it wrong.
Yeah.
I think instead of saying you're not perfect, it almost sounds like an admission of guilt. Like, they caught me with some panties that are not my wife's in the drawer. You know, I think it's more like I'm more human.
Yes,
I want to be
that's
relatable. I want to be more relatable
Exactly.
because
Correct.
when you meet Jeff, you know he's very human and very fallible. So he's very relatable. That was my job. Boom, boom. But when you run, especially with Democrats, because a lot of Democrats in those counties are working people, and he comes off very wealthy.
Go on.
Oh my gosh. But he didn't come off as relatable at times, more ivory tower, and he didn't go out to the different tractor pools and events and the local
Bishop
things.
talked about.
But when you can
going to the
conquer
farming
your
bureaus.
own
Dan never showed
party.
up to the farming bureaus. That's
But that's what I'm
important
saying.
in the rural areas.
They were looking for somebody that was going to maybe get out there and do something silly with them, or be relatable, or go to whatever festivals they have, he
some
didn't
fried
energize
Twinkies or something.
he didn't go where they were at.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that ivory tower deal is what killed Hillary too.
Yes.
So Hillary did not come off as relatable
He
at
made
times,
them
what?
come to him.
You know what? It really
Yeah.
caught my
and that never
attention.
works.
Yes.
The way LatinX are going on right now, and they're being, target, with the government and with all these
Yeah.
crazy ideas from President Trump. And I was looking through Dunn's Bishop's list and
Yeah.
everything. There's so many immigrants supporting him.
Yes, we saw that in the data. The last polling that came out that was done by Dan McCready's own group showed that the Latinos preferred Dan Bishop more than they did
Yes.
McCready.
McCready.
It's one of those things that, and we talked about this before.
Yeah.
When you completely ignore Latinos, and you don't even say I support the sheriff when we support the sheriff, there's no reason for them to support you. You're going to go with the person that you know, or what I don't know how to. It's like, and maybe y'all could talk to this but we got to move to your segment real quickly. But maybe y'all can talk about this. Like in Texas, we know that the Latinos. It took a long time for the Latinos to start voting Democrat again. They were voting Republican for a long time, for the Bushes, for, like I tell us all the time. Yes, they still do. My family voted for Ted Cruz. Like, how crazy can you be? But they still vote.
The people that are able to vote, they say, I'm here,
Yes.
I did it correctly.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly.
And all those other people that the Republicans are saying they're wanting to kick out,
Yeah.
they didn't get on the boat at the right time to get
Exactly.
here. And are crossed or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's when they get here, or if they've been here forever, that's what happens. Is
Yeah.
then they're like, I got this
Yes.
right.
And it's hard to win them back. It's taken a long time for Texas to win them back, even though they have a state chair, right? Who's Hinojosa, I think, is the state Democratic chair. Hinojosa, and they have a lot of leaders in the Hispanic community in the Democratic Party. It's difficult for them to win the people back who are now so engraved in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party.
I don't ever think that
Yeah.
the Latinx of Texas was ever Democrat. They were mainly
Mhm.
Republican.
I
They were
agree.
always being
Yeah.
They were
Republican.
always
It's just
Republican.
Republicans at
And
that time
so-
tend to be more Democratic.
It also
You know what's
depends on
the-
what part of the state.
And
too.
it's easier to
yeah.
become
Yes.
Republican than changing a Republican into Democrat, especially in Texas.
Doesn't make it
Yes.
difficult,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
I mean, if you're talking about the Rio Grande Valley or San Antonio, I think that's a different type
Yes.
of Latinx
Yeah.
voter.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right.
That has
Than a
been more
Dallas.
traditionally
And
like,
Dallas, Houston.
like you
Austin.
saw how long Henry Cisneros was mayor
Yes.
before they put in term limits, and he had a lock on that town, and he was
The
very
Castro
Democrat.
brothers.
Yeah, the Castro brothers, that sort of thing. And then, but then at the same time, our Speaker of the House for a long time was from San Antonio, and he was white and he was Republican,
Yeah.
and he did very well there too.
Correct.
So there,
Jim Wright.
No, he was actually-
after
Jim Wright was
after
my
Jim Wright.
congressman.
After.
And he was Speaker of the House. Yeah.
And so you and I think there's a lot of Latinx voters that just that don't necessarily vote Latinx candidates.
Yes.
They don't necessarily vote for them because for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And you saw that with Jorge. I mean,
Yeah.
Charlotte's 17% Latinx.
Mhm.
Yeah, they didn't really turn out for him.
Yeah.
Well, these are we're going to be going over the numbers for a long time.
Right.
Yes.
Although we can't do it too long because filing starts again in December,
Yeah.
Oh.
and then we start all over again. The primary is in March.
Okay, let me ask the big question.
Uh-oh.
Filing starts in December.
Mhm.
Are y'all planning to re-register again and file again?
I'm certifiable.
That was asked to me. This
Are you
morning.
okay?
That was asked to me this morning. We'll decide. We'll look at what occurred. We'll look at
This 3 months, see how it works.
Just see. I believe whoever decides to run, if you're a Democrat, you've got to run as a Democrat to have any chance. I
agree with that.
I hope that we've finally put a nail in the coffin of running people who aren't running as Democrats, because we're just wasting money. Spend that $30 million on good Democrats to change the state legislature instead of $30 million on a fake Democrat to possibly win a couple of people over. You're not going to win people
Or
who
just
love
to
Trump.
move your emotions.
You're not going to, people who support Trump, and I heard this last night when I was afterwards, and we saw that at the Dan Bishop event last night.
Yeah.
They are tribal and they love Trump. He's got 38% polling, and they still came out and voted for him.
Yeah.
And so if you're gonna run, I would not necessarily run against Dan Bishop. I would run against Donald Trump, or how you can be the check, keep him in check, in a check and balance, but also more importantly, talk less about South Charlotte. It's time to stop talking about South Charlotte.
Correct.
It's not all about South Charlotte.
How long?
Yes.
And start talking about. And the whole reason Union County bands together because they don't like South Charlotte.
And I'll say two things. One, District 9's going to dramatically change probably because of this fall. I mean, so by the time that anybody could file for to run in that race again, we are going to see different makeup. I talked to Jeff Jackson about that, and he said there's going to be some really pretty serious oversight. It's going to be a big shuffle.
Yes.
The second thing,
And they're doing that right. They're doing that right now.
Yeah, right
You
now.
can pay
Do you know what's the hard part of it
Mhm.
is that we make a big deal here in District 9. I just love District 12.
And we do
I
need
love
to
it.
move on to the next segment too.
Yes.
Voice of reason.
Okay.
I thought the redistricting was only for the state.
It is only for the state.
For the
It's
state.
not for
It
the
won't-
federal.
It won't affect.
Oh, it won't affect the federal. I don't
Now,
know.
the people who get
I did not know
elected in that new district for the state will redraw the federal, but that's another election.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Correct.
Oh, I
So
didn't- I
right.
didn't-
So
I didn't
all
realize.
elections matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So-
That's
Domino effect.
Congratulations on everyone. I will say that I want to congratulate Dan McCready. I gave him so much grief for not doing anything for all that time, and then the last 2 months he really did step up his game and he campaigned like crazy. I wish he'd done it earlier, but he was saying last night I saw his concession speech that he campaigning for 26, 27 months. Everyone knows he didn't campaign for 27 months. We didn't even see him for almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
It was only until July that he started having his candidate forums, and by that time, when you ignore people and you show up, they're like, finally you show up. And so, but at least he, like you said, he tried to the very end.
That's
And
right.
he did establish a good ground game.
Yeah.
He put some really good people to work.
There's little doubt in my mind that
Yeah.
the guy worked his ass off.
But
he
I was-
really did, and I was very impressed with his professional staff, all the people who were working for him, all the volunteers. I disliked them, and I tweeted against them, and
They were bitter.
and I trolled them.
They were
and,
so mean.
and I'm gonna get a little bit of grief in return.
But-
Not that much. I'm not
Yeah.
going to get that
Yes,
much hate mail
exactly.
because I didn't really have a big influence.
But
on
congratulations to our new
So-
Congressperson Dan Bishop. Whether you like him or not, he is our congressman, and we still have to. The world did not end,
That's right.
so
Yeah.
we were able to live to fight
But
another.
he's
Let's
gonna
go
think the world end
When
once
he
I
gets-
start trolling.
Exactly.
At the end, we have to push, and he's gonna end up doing what we request.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
yeah. He still has to represent all of us.
Yeah, he still has to represent us.
So let's talk, Cristal. Tell us about what you're working on, or
Anything you like.
Anything. This is your segment.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I
Break
just
out the
realized-
booze.
I just realized you have more buttons than me. Oh my goodness gracious!
Just-
I
You have
have,
not put them on.
I have been collecting these buttons since 2004 when I was in law school.
Oh wow!
I have my vagina votes and saving the vagina saving the world
Ruth
one
is
vagina
wild.
at a time.
Oh wow!
So these are my dear buttons that
I like them.
So
For people that don't know, I moved here to North Carolina because of the Robinsons. Cristal's been a good friend of mine since I began my transition journey. Physically, over 3 years ago, I actually met her at a trans camp to learn how to transition, and she was the legal advisor there. And she's moved here. She is a strong voice in the LGBT community. She advocated back there. She was heavily involved with multiple organizations in here as well. And her project is very worthy. I'm very behind it. I've read over the materials. I very much endorse what she's doing, and I'm a huge fan, and I love her. So, there you go.
Wow!
There
That
we
was
go.
build up.
There we go.
I never got
There-
an introduction like that.
Yeah, well,
Come
Okay,
on.
Superwoman.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Yes. No.
I'm not a licensed attorney in North Carolina. I'm
Okay.
going through that process.
Okay.
And supposedly in October, they'll actually look at the pieces of paper,
Oh.
900 and some odd pages. If you ever want to move from one state to the next, make sure that you do not get traffic tickets, because I had to produce every traffic ticket that I've ever received.
Oh.
And I speed based on the music that I play.
I can tell. She was behind me. I'm a live witness of that.
She needs flame retardant tires. She's
And
driving.
then I seen her tag. And then I seen her tag. It said
Well-
Texas. She must be going to Cano's house.
Yeah.
Well, you're in the right city, the birth of NASCAR. So.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not first, you're last.
That's right.
Well, everything's 45 miles an hour. I have no idea why you'd have a Lamborghini in this town. But I also like to have seminars so that people can learn. So while I'm here with my mediation and my consulting, I can still provide seminars. So I have on stayoutofcourt.net is a website that you can look at the events, and it's on Eventbrite too. So if you just say chew on it with Cristal Robinson, because it's a breakfast or lunch or drinks, and it's 3 times a month. And the first one is current federal employment anti-discrimination laws for LGBT and women, just to get you understanding why next month we won't know what the Supreme Court's idea, we'll know their ideas, but we won't know their actual opinions until June of next year.
Wow.
But October 8th, they actually have 3 cases that they're hearing, and two of them are gay men that were either came out to a client, got fired, or was not in a man enough attire and got fired, or another one is a transgender woman who transitioned and was fired.
Wow.
And so all 3 of those, and the reason why it is not just LGBT, so if you're like, oh, I'm not one of those, that you will see something even if you are a white male. If you are not as masculine as your boss wants you to be, you can be fired. All of those cases are contingent on a 1987 case that's Price Waterhouse, where a female was told to dress more feminine. And they fired her. Well, she took it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they said that is sex discrimination. All of it is based on the word sex in the Civil Rights Act, and that word was just added during the negotiations of that act. And what does sex actually mean? And so the first September is about just laying that groundwork. October is I'm going to hopefully get into the Supreme Court, because they only have 150 seats, so you have to be like a groupie, and I am a groupie at the Supreme Court.
Oh, actually,
at DC.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
wonderful.
And
Okay.
you have to get there early. So if I can get in there, then I will actually watch it. If not, then I will wait for, I'm in DC, so I'll go and do all the other wonderful fun things from DC. And it's right next to the Library of Congress. So. But I'll get the transcripts, and we can read them, discuss them in the October. And then there's other seminars throughout the year, and so you can either decide breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
So the first seminar you have coming up is when?
There's a breakfast one on October 1st.
And
drinks.
Since Tara is not here, we will act like Tara. Is that a Facebook event?
Yes. There's a Facebook. I have Twittered it. I have.
All right.
I have an event.
I have not seen it.
Excellent. So we will share that then.
Oh, I can't actually.
Yeah.
I have a
And we'll-
Facebook
Is it
event.
private?
I can't promote it because
Okay.
supposedly Facebook thinks it's a political issue,
Oh.
and so I have to
Gotcha.
get Facebook blessed.
Oh. Okay.
But
I
it
can help
is-
you do that.
But it is,
Yeah.
the first one's coming up on September 16th.
So
which
do
is
you have
this
like
Monday.
a flyer or something that
Yes.
we can share?
Yes, I have
Okay.
it on GIF
Okay.
and all that. But
Excellent.
the first one is just this next Monday on the 16th at Single Barrel,
Okay.
and it is at 6 p.m.
Okay. Excellent. Then we'll share that our
Right.
with our friends and
Yeah, just because you can't promote it doesn't mean you can't have the event itself listed.
Correct. I have the events on
That's
there.
right. Yeah.
And one of the nice things about the seminar is it talks about the different intersections of not just LGBT, but how LGBT is connected to especially women's rights and appearance and discrimination and just going through life, because I've got a lot of cis female friends that have very masculine presentations, and they've been harassed at bathrooms, they've been harassed at work. You know, there's all these little micro and macro aggressions. There's a lot out there, and a lot of people don't understand what is their rights, what isn't their rights, and what Cristal's thing is designed to do is to explain and break it down in more regular terms, and not get. You also have the effect of, well, I'm gonna go sue you, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go do that, and not understanding what you're even talking about. And I think it does arm you for preparing yourself for life. So if you're gonna make a career change, if you're gonna do a job change, if you're gonna get involved with politics, understanding what your parameters are helps a lot too. So very instructional, very timely considering what's going on in this country. And I totally endorse the message, and it's a fascinating subject. We talk about it all the time at home.
Excellent. So outside of that, what else do you do? I mean, is that basically you're holding seminars? Do you help people in any other ways? Or
With mediation, I can do relationship dissolution, where if you're either marrying or you are living with individuals, you have assets
getting
and
someone
stuff
not
like
to
that.
sit so close in your space.
Okay.
She uses
We
my
can
coffee
talk and
spot.
we can discuss
You can figure that out.
some information about that. Also business dissolution, because if you ever go into a partnership, you are actually marrying into that person.
Yes.
And if you are wanting to split up that business, then there is a need to decide how to split that up. In the consulting, I do nonprofit consulting and small business. And it's from the technology to HR. I have an MBA and a finance degree and the law degree. And so it's well-rounded of information.
You overachiever.
Well, and Charlotte is so much better for having you here. I tell people this all the time. The reason Charlotte is because of people that have come here and brought their skill sets from wherever they've come from and continue to make this city better. And we've got a lot of. This is a great city, and we have a lot of potential. And so, in the elections, I think showed that we have diversity on our. I wish Jorge had been elected. It would have been nice to, but we can't give up. We gotta. That's a stepping stone. And Jorge said that last night. I think, that he's gonna keep.
Well, and I think he started a movement.
I think
he started a.
yeah.
I think he started a conversation, and I think it takes a lot of people to start those conversations. The fact that we have this compared to what we had 20 years ago, not just in Texas, but here too, when you start having these important discussions, you actually see somebody like Jorge running and Gabe Cartagena running. And so, I mean, kudos to that young man. He ran not only in a crowded race, but he's 22. In fact, it's his birthday. Hi, Gabe. Happy birthday.
Oh, yeah, happy birthday.
It's his birthday today.
Yep.
And the fact that you have these two LatinX gentlemen both running, and that they're taking a stab at it, and they're gonna. And Jorge, I have a feeling, is probably gonna run again for something. And I think in 2020 or 2021, I think you're gonna see his name thrown out again. And that's cool. And that gets that conversation going. It gets the Latinx base energized. But we also get to see a different kind of candidate with different types of views. And what he does with his nonprofit very much
motivates
helps.
others.
It motivates.
Yes.
And you look at his team, extremely diverse.
Yes.
I was really surprised.
Very diverse.
I mean,
I
you look
really
at his panel and
you
you see all
impressed
intersections.
by the diversity.
Yeah.
Everyone has like supporters and followers.
And their groups,
And when you look at Jorge's, it was like a Benetton. You know, remember Benetton? It was like a Benetton commercial. It was just so diverse. Everyone was.
I
Was
call
it
it United
more like
Nations.
Yeah,
group.
United,
Yeah,
like
I
United
mean,
Nations.
I mean, you had everything from a gender queer, sexually queer, a trans
No,
woman
really,
like
I mean,
me on there, and you had.
it's pretty.
you
pretty
had-
Well, that's
typical.
what his
Yeah, you had a
nonprofit
lot.
represents. You know,
Yeah.
unity,
Yeah.
and you know that's what he
Queen
wants,
City
and that's
Unity,
his.
yeah. I
That's
want one of
what.
those T-shirts too. They're
Oh
awesome.
God, I've
Those
been
t-shirts.
wanting one.
I
We can
know.
buy them.
You can sell them at
Yeah,
profit,
yeah,
too.
you can sell them. You can buy them.
So, is there anything else you want to say before we read the Constitution Code of the Week? Because we're
no.
okay.
I
Well,
love the Constitution.
yes.
Well, before we
This is a
move on to
Constitution
the
game, too, so-
Constitution,
I usually have a Constitution
Oh,
in my
well.
purse at all
awesome.
times.
Oh,
This man
no.
carries them.
I do.
Before we close, don't forget November. It's a big day again, and we will have commissioners voting.
Oh yes.
So please, I love your shirt. We have a school board candidates running.
Candidates running, and
We have Tara Long running for
well, she'll be in
commissioner.
2020.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
what I'm
but
saying.
you know
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
starting.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
she's starting, so we definitely need to get more involved and connected
Yes.
to those that are really want to be our voices out there.
Yes.
Let's not let those, like your button set
And-
your votes. You know, vote like if you depend on
And
that.
I'm gonna beat a dead horse over the head. I hope what we've
I don't
learned.
care about mediation.
I hope. I hope what we've learned in this election
Yes.
is if you want to get elected, you've got to show up to community events.
Get
You've
connected.
got to show up to community events. And if you don't, it is that much more difficult.
And don't take party so personal.
Yes.
Make sure and see what you really want for your country, for your community,
yeah, we
for your
went.
state.
I'm Democrat. I was Democratic nominee. We went to
two different- three
different events. We went to y'all's event.
Libertarian,
We
Green
went
Party,
Green Party,
Republican.
And then we went to
We didn't go to the
Bishop.
Democrats because
We
we
weren't
didn't get
invited.
invited.
But don't you think? Anyway, that's another
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
But you
That's
know,
past.
we shook Dan Bishop's hand and we said congratulations. We
Thank
said,
you. I did
we-
mention to him, don't forget about the Latinos that support
Yeah, we
you.
said that. We said, it looks like the polling shows that you
Mhm.
won most Latino voters over Dan McCready.
Yeah.
Please don't forget him. He said, we'll talk later.
Mhm.
Good.
That's how you
Yep.
negotiate.
Mhm.
That's life experiences teaches
And
you
that's
that.
being part of our community. If
Yes.
we say we want a better community, we have to be involved. It doesn't matter what party they belong to,
Yes.
as long as they're there to hear our voices.
Yes, that is true. That is true. So, Constitution Code of the Week. Which one are we reading? Anybody?
I thought
I
we
thought
were.
we were the fifth.
Okay.
The fifth?
Who like you? Would you like to read
Go
it?
ahead.
Oh, okay. Or whoever wants to
She's
read it.
she's the great.
You want me to read it and you can talk about it?
Okay,
Yes,
that's
go.
awesome.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger, semicolon, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, semicolon, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, not be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So this is a big amendment. There's a lot of stuff in here.
What does it mean?
Well, there's the eminent domain.
Eminent domain. No
There's
double
all-
jeopardy.
Well, we're going to hand that over
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Cristal.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
Cristal.
yeah.
Oh, really? I should have like studied up or whatever. Okay, one thing is that you have to understand that the Bill of Rights is not all on the states. It's a selective,
Right.
and so all of this is not on the states, but you have to verify each one of them based on the cases. So in the 60s, the 4th, 5th, and 6th started getting to the states. So when we say that in the the right to counsel or any of that kind of stuff, there's a case that made that said that the states.
Is that
So
the incorporation?
yes,
Yes.
selective incorporation.
Yes.
The founder of the ACLU, it was a compromise
Mhm.
because some people are like, no, it's only going to be the Bill of Rights is only going to be a contract with the citizens of the United States, but not required by the states to do that. And then they said, well, what about this 14th Amendment? And so anytime that we have acts or parts of the Bill of Rights that the states have to go on is based on some case that they took out and said this was. And so like you have the Miranda rights that state you have to tell this. And I actually have the Miranda rights in my living room. I didn't post that one. I have the Constitution in my living room. And so you have most of these you saw if you've ever watched any of this, Law and Order or anything like that. And so
that's my entire legal background.
Is that after Leave It to Beaver?
Yes.
All right.
Ipso facto.
Yeah.
Well, Jenny.
I don't even
do
know
y'all
what that
have
means.
questions? I can answer questions better than I can.
Well,
just
no, I
explain
mean, part of what we
stuff
do, we
Well,
try
why
to
is the
read
fifth
conscious-
important? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I
what
guess
is?
they're all.
Well, it's
I mean,
the,
why
the
is
one
the fifth important?
the one that when people
Life,
say they're
liberty.
taking the fifth, right? That's the self-incrimination
Correct.
part, and that one I think is the feature that sticks in most people's minds without reading it if you're asked about it. But then there's the eminent domain part of it too, which is clearly important to certainly the libertarians.
Yeah.
And then they also that life, liberty, and property is also based on how big your bonds are, how long you're going to stay in jail or prison. You can't, like misdemeanors are state, they can't put you in forever without having a reason, and it has to be a level, like you can't just jaywalk and then boom, you're in for jail forever. And
So it's about proportional punishment.
correct. And they have to, like Louisiana has a case that they wanted to do all rape of children to death penalty. And they're like, well, that's too much because it's rape and not death. And so there's actually a case like that, and you're like, well, why don't we do that? Well, there's a case and there was a reason why. And that we can't just come up and
that's the protection through Amendment 14, correct?
It takes the first 13 amendments to the state. So before the 14th Amendment, none of those things were to the states. Like the First Amendment, your state could say you could not protest until the 20s when they started looking at the First Amendment. And then the 4th, 5th was the 60s. We've never done the Third Amendment, so that's the quartering of soldiers. The only Third Amendment one is Roe versus Wade, because she actually put that in there and said forcing someone to carry a baby was quartering a future soldier, because the state was saying, well, women are raising future soldiers. And they actually was that was part of the compelling, because the 14th actually is that you have 3 different levels of scrutiny for the government. And so based on the protected class that you're in on the 14th, that's one reason that the classes I'm doing with women in the word of sex and LGBT in the word of sex is that it's a intermediate. So it's not put up to the strict scrutiny, and it's not just the bottom layer, the moderate. And that they have the ability to say, we can discriminate in these ways. And so when you look at the 14th, that's also why they look at the 14th and all the other ones. So the 5th has to look at that too. What scrutiny they have to look at based on what they're going to do, the life, liberty, or property, or double jeopardy, or any of the other ones that's in there.
This is really interesting. I mean, I could sit
We should
here
have
and-
started.
We should have started with that.
With this.
But let me tell you, that continues my push. I have always believed that because I came from the hotel business, I've always believed that in hotels, in addition to the Bible and the Book of Mormon, which you have at Marriott's, which now they own most of the hotels, or franchise them, you should have a copy of the Constitution. That's even more important to have. That people need to read the Constitution. I call it the American Bible. And we just don't. other than maybe what we learned in civic lessons in
The
schools.
United
or
States
whatever.
Bible, not America.
Yeah,
America,
the
we-
United States. That's right, because America
Thank you.
is North America, South America.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
good girl.
Good
So-
girl.
If you come to my, if
Good
you,
girl.
Because everybody keeps on saying Americans.
if you come to my seminars, I'll actually explain why hotels, the right to travel, and what barbecue sauce had to play in putting the 14th Amendment.
Wow.
Mm.
Oh,
Can we
on that
have-
note-
yeah. On that note, please
On
stay
that note-
tuned because we will have a show
Yes.
to explain all that about the
So,
Constitution.
lastly,
It'll be saucy.
I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank
So
you
do
for
your homework.
our live audience left. Thank you, Tara, who was here.
Bye,
as
Tara.
well. And I want to give just one more last
Hi,
shout
Gina.
out. Yeah, hi, Gina. I want to give one more last shout out to you, Jeff Scott, who ran.
Our winner
Uh,
for last night.
Who ran? You won the third party
Yes.
election.
Yeah.
But
He won over Alan.
I want to thank you for having the courage to run, for sticking in the race, and Alan Smith as well. I do think third parties play a very, very important role on how we shape policy, how we do things. And I don't think we will learn from this election because there was a lot of vote shaming in the very end. I do hope that I hope that we can move past vote shaming. It'll never happen. That's just the way people play.
Yeah.
But I do think that I thank you. I know it must be incredibly difficult to. I don't agree with all the libertarian, but I agree with many of them because that's why I call myself now a democratic libertarian.
Yeah.
And you've educated me a lot on some things libertarians stand for, pro-LGBT. Medical cannabis, those kind of things.
Great.
So thank you for for
Appreciate
entering
it.
the race. I hope we don't hear. I want to say I hope we don't hear from you again. I hope we hear from you again.
He's our co-host.
Yeah, you're our co-host. Of course, we're going to hear from you all the time.
We'll
But
see you next Wednesday.
But please make sure that you guys still
Wait a
stay
minute. We didn't
involved.
sign a contract after all, did we?
Please make sure that your party tries to continue to run
Oh, yeah.
people in Charlotte. I hope the Greens continue to run.
Yeah.
They played a very important part. They may not have won a lot of votes, but they scared the heck out of the Democrats.
Yeah.
And
Alan was getting calls the moment he signed his name with the local board of elections. He was getting calls to not participate.
And
Wow.
like I said, if you are Democrat or Republican, you shouldn't be afraid of third party people. What you should say is, thank you for running, vote for whoever you know. What do I need to do to get your vote? And then you go after that vote. Instead of shaming them, you go after them. And imagine if they had excited you and they all came out to vote for, whatever.
Okay, some of us are old,
Oh.
and we remember the 2000 election, and 95,700 and some odd votes mattered in Florida, and that was Nader. And so,
And
I take the Nader mantle.
Here we go.
so
what you're saying is that I think I know what you're saying, but that's not the fault of Nader. That's the fault of the people who didn't go after the Nader's votes. So if you were afraid of Nader, what I would say is, Nader, what can I do to get your people's votes? This is the issue they're talking about. I'm going to talk about that issue. And so it's not necessarily the fault of the third party person. It's the fault of, it's like marketing. If your competition is pulling market from you, you find out why they're pulling market from you.
Listen to the chicken
Dan
sandwich.
Bishop or Dan McCready could have called me at any time if
Yes.
they thought I was important.
That's, yes,
now, in
leadership.
Thailand, we have like 14 people that run. Now, some people will
This is
die
America.
because they vote for the wrong people. And not the wrong people, just the people that want to kill the people that did vote for the other guy. And but I do believe that Americans we're very simple people.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
can only do like A or B. Do you want to wear pants or skirt? Do you want to have tacos or burritos?
No
some
wonder I define myself different.
Well,
and
Since
so,
I was
I mean,
growing.
I
So you're saying-
understand that
No.
the third parties
Yeah.
make sure that we
Yeah.
mold in and make sure that we keep, because the Democrat Party is not the same Democrat Party as
Not before.
1972.
Yep.
And the Republican Party as
Or
well.
not.
And then they've switched, and used to it was like a Democrat-Republican Party in the 1700s.
Yeah.
So
But if third parties were not so important, our state party chairman, Wayne Goodwin, did everything he could to make sure that the Constitution Party got certified. And he did that because he knew that would take votes away from the Republicans. So both parties want third parties. to hurt the other party. They just don't want them to hurt themselves, and that's hypocritical.
Yeah.
So if you don't believe in third parties
or political diversity,
or the diversities, both parties have used third parties against and for it. They just don't want it to be. So how you overcome that, I believe, is you allow third parties to form, and then if the Green Party is entering a race, you go to the Green Party events and you say, listen, I know you have a candidate, but this is what I stand for, and you try to win them over. I don't think it's worse to make a candidate work harder.
Right, because otherwise it's just $1 million advertising campaign.
Well, I've got two things to say. One, steel sharpens steel. So if you have a good third-party candidate like H. Ross Perot, for example,
exactly,
that did two things. One, it ended a lock of the Reagan-Bush control of the presidency. The second thing is it put a young president by the name of Bill Clinton in office.
That's right.
Because Ross Perot took double-digit votes away from the Republicans.
That's like 20%.
He also brought up some issues that made the Republican Party actually stronger in certain ways, and it developed some movements. And maybe the Democrat Party needs that too a little bit. Maybe we need the Green Party to push us a little bit more so that we sharpen up our game and we get to the issues that progressives really want to hear about.
Yes.
And the Green Party's got some very valid points. Libertarians not so much, but got him right at the end. But the Green Party does have some incredible things that Democrats are afraid to talk about.
Yeah.
And that political courage that Ross Perot had, and he got called a kook, he got made fun of.
Spoiler
and all that.
That
But
giant sucking sand.
You're a wasted vote.
And he created some great stuff for the Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
But what he did do is he changed presidential politics forever.
Yes.
Forever. And it was a very pivotal election, and it got a baby boomer in office too. So Bill Clinton was the first baby boomer to
And
win.
it could have sped up LGBTQ rights.
It did. In a lot of ways.
And that goes back to the NC9, is that Bill Clinton was a Southerner, a person that you would want to go and have a beer with, just like Bush.
Yes.
And he went to a lot of different things.
Yes.
He went to small places.
He went to...
And that's what McCready never did. He was the Al Gore intellectual type. And
Ivory Tower.
I mean, some of his events
Ivory
were 150 just to
I'll
have
explain
like
to you later.
the guest. And I was like, 150 for a guest? I better be able to sit on his lap.
That's Gary Hart. That's a different candidate. You need the monkey business right below your title. Well, I'm not going to do it.
I met Clinton. They were at events that you could, like Beto. He was at a beer place.
But he was very human. He was very, very, one of the things that was unique with Bill Clinton and many candidates like him, he was very folksy, very relatable.
Yeah.
Obama was the same way.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, Trump is too. Trump has a lot of relatable things.
Yes.
They might be icky.
He's
They might be
crazy.
icky
He's
as
your
hell.
crazier uncle, okay?
Yeah, he's a crazy
He's a
uncle that you
crazy
want to take the
uncle.
remote
Yes.
from, and probably the car keys too.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Uncle Don, you shouldn't be touching her.
We-
But
Yeah.
We have gone over, and I want to thank everyone for being patient with
It's
us.
your
And
fault.
Thank you, Jenny, for bringing the uncle,
Bringing up interesting topics.
the crazy uncle
Just stop it.
jokes in. So once again, thank you so much for thank you all the volunteers who volunteered for whoever you volunteered for.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you do. You're who makes elections possible. The world did not end today. We wake up, we shake hands. There are some people whose feelings are going to be hurt for a while because now they've lost 2 elections. And what we do is say, thank you for what you've done. Let's just try again. You try again. We learn.
And we
try
understand
again.
today is a hard day.
Yes, so we need to remember today is 9/11.
Yes.
I hope everyone takes some time to remember those that we lost in 9/11. It was for many young people. I was talking to someone the other day, and they said that a lot of young people, when they say, what is the day that you remember the most? Some people say, Man on the Moon. Our current generation, they remember
9/11.
pre 9/11 and post 9/11. And for many of us who've gone through things in our life, we
for
remember
me, it's a very important day because that was the first time ever in my life that I learned about mental illness with one of my brothers, especially in that particular day.
Yep.
That's when my brother got really out of it and everything was going on at the same time. And it was hard for me because I was breastfeeding. I had a 6-month-old baby and I was at work. So it was really tough.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and just tell us where you're going to be. On that note, I hate to go. It's like and the weather.
Man, I'm sorry we're about to finish our show, but you might want to go back and rewind it and listen to everything that we talked. We had different topics today. We had a special guest, an attorney, and she is focused and she hosts seminars, so you might want to hear about that. And we also talk about the numbers about the elections of yesterday.
Flags.
And see you next Wednesday.
Where are you going to be, Jenny?
I'm going to be on Monday. I'm going to be stopping in at Cristal's event at the Single Barrel Room on Monday, September 16th.
Okay.
Next week.
And bless your heart, where are you going to be?
Blessing your heart, everyone. I'm sorry we lost.
Girl, we're trying to be nice.
I'll be nice. Bye, everyone. I'll be at home.
Jeff, where are you going to be?
Got no big plans. I'm going to go to a concert on Friday night. I'm going to see the great Rufus Wainwright at the McGowan Theater. It's a small theater. I've seen him 3 or 4 times before, and he's pretty magic.
Crystal?
Tomorrow I'm celebrating my birthday, and then on Monday, happy birthday! September 15th, on Sunday, I'm celebrating the ratification of the Constitution.
Oh.
And then on September 16th, I will be doing a seminar at Single Barrel Room at 6 p.m. It's on Eventbrite. Chew on it with Cristal Robinson.
Excellent. And Miss Barbara?
I will be picking up a drink signs for him.
Oh.
Seeing him tomorrow, and on Saturday at my house, I'm having a meet and greet for Tira Long.
Oh, excellent.
Woo!
Well,
Don't forget, this weekend it's Independence Day of Mexico.
Jesse says to September.
Yes,
and this is, listen, we didn't even talk about that.
I know.
People do not understand that
She's having fun? Yeah.
People, we're going to have to end real quickly. People do not understand that the big day is really Jesse Says to September, not Cinco de Mayo.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is Mexican Independence Day.
Yeah.
So happy
And
Jesse
for a lot of
Says.
different countries as well.
Yes,
So,
that's right. So everyone wave and we'll say
Bye,
goodbye.
everyone.